Professor Pete here. We are looking at game design. This is week 2, and we're going to look at some additional game design principles. These are really important. These should always be in every game you create, and by having it makes it a lot more interesting to play. You have these things, you create appeal, you create fans, viewership. So let's have a look at some of those principles. I don't have a lot of games to show you because there's just so many games out there, but the very first one is theme. In sense of theme, we're talking about time and place. This is a game called Bugsmack, and it has a very unique theme and place. You're in the forest, and you have these very cartoony characters, and that makes it very playful and fun and very imaginative because, well, what kind of animal is this? It's kind of hard. It's almost like a baby saber-toothed tiger wearing a cowboy hat and holding a strawberry. That's a friend. So again, it's a mashup of a number of things. You have a Western in here. You have the environment of a place, could be somewhere warm in the US or somewhere in Asia because it's very lush, almost like a rainforest. And then you have the strawberry with eyes, okay, which reminds me a little bit like Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. So you mash these things together and now you've got a very interesting theme going here, very fantasy-like, childlike. However, if you bounce it against something like this, very popular game, Flight Simulator, it's very specific. It's got a theme, also very specific, of flying. And it's quite realistic. So you've got this type of theme. Blurry image, but you can also think about sports games, which are simulations, just like the last one. And here's the very, very famous FIFA series. Again, there's a very clear theme. It's coming from realism. So there's not a lot you could play with this in terms of creativity, since you're emulating the very nature of football. When we talk about audience, this is also very important. You have to be very clear in the intention of the audience for your game. So we're going to show you a number of examples, and this is very straightforward too, very simple stuff. We all know this stuff, games for everyone, all the way up to adult, mature games. And here is a very, very popular game, the Sims series. This came out many, many years ago, I'd say 15 years ago. And this is a game that I think almost everyone could play, but I would say people over the age of 13 or so, as it gets more and more complicated, then maybe the audience changes, but it's not really a kid's game. And you can tell by the way the graphics are built, right? The design of everything is very game-like, but quite realistic. We move over to this very, very popular franchise, Minecraft. And again, there's so many different game examples to show, but this one is, although very rudimentary, it's got a cool design, but at the same time, I'd say more younger people would play this, under the age of 13. Moving further, again, based on the design of this character, quite realistic. So you can see the difference. If it's going to be for kids, younger, it's going to be very cartoony. And as you get more realistic, it becomes more mature, and you can almost say that that coincides with the audience. But this is a very clear audience too. People who play Warcraft, it's almost because of the design of things, it's very powerful. So you have this, when you go to these cosplay events, you see these hardcore fans. So in terms of the fan base of Warcraft, or the Blizzard in general, and their game series, it's quite powerful, very incredible in terms of the look and design of everything. You got the wonderful mountains, and you have this very rudimentary form, taking, again, inspiration, I'm sure, from Vikings and, this ogre. Different fantasy stories. And then finally, talking about audience, talking about theme, talking about console, this is also very interesting. So we're thinking about console in the sense that which device you're going to be playing this game. And again, we have mobile devices. Okay, imagine this, right? This is 2020 statistics or 2019 statistics. $100 billion is spent on mobile games. So you can imagine how much more or how much little the movie industry makes. Hollywood, I think 30 billion. And then you've got console games. I don't know what that stat is, but this mobile games alone, this is for console, right? And for PC. So I'm putting them both together. When you have this combination, you have playability that's in the hundreds of hours. So these games can be very complex and very full, these environments. So here's Cyberpunk, again, in the future. It's very, again, fantasy-like. In that sense, it's more mature, but it's very clear in terms of the theme that looking at this, I would say it's a combination of a major city and an older city, maybe Los Angeles even. So this combination, this theme is very clear just because of the robustness of the environment. Look at how broken down some of these buildings are, and the character of the roads, and then the palm trees, which reminds me a bit like LA or someplace close to the equator. And then to compare it with another console, this is mobile, right? Farmville, very popular game where you're just getting and harvesting things. So you got, again, very stylized because of the device, which is a phone. Although they're becoming more like computers, they're still not there yet. But you still have these very stylized, very basic looking. In terms of the textures, it's all stylized in that sense. Like, okay, I know it's a cow, but you don't see all the details of the cow. You can't even tell the color of the eyes of the cow. But still, right? It's got a 3/4 view. You're looking down at it. You understand the theme. It's a farm. It could be because of the well. It could be, let's say, the 1950s or so. Again, the guy that's fishing over there in the corner as well. And you got a water tank, and it looks like it got corn silos. In terms of the audience, I think this could go both ways. I think kids could play it, but because of the complexity of harvesting and this kind of business, you probably aren't going to get 5-year-olds playing it. But it does have that similar look that young kids can really grasp and take in and understand. If something is too realistic and too complex, kids just can't, calculate what's going on. If we transfer this to the board game design, this is also very transferable. Here is Day Trader. It's about finance. It's a board game. Wonderful way of not only the cards, the money, but in terms of the board itself, right? It's got a lot of text on it, icon based, quite simple, in the sense that it's a bank. So adults will play this. The colors are also red and blue. So this is also I wouldn't say it's totally more like a superhero colors, but also works well in terms of thinking about money. I think green could have been a nice color that they could have used for this board game, but the very clear theme, finance, very clear audience based on the design, adults, and console, well, we don't need to worry about that in this case. Sticking with adult themed games, this is one of those that I played, but more like an adult. It's a game of life. The design of everything is very interesting. You got, a really cool map, and then all the details with all the buildings and all the other things, and a lot of text on the board game itself. So again, pretty realistic in that sense, not a lot of stylization. Now we're getting into more childlike games, although in this sense, these are stylized characters, very flat. And some of the characters are not too big, too small. You see the shipment and travel that's here. So again, the theme really to me is about the world, because you have the continents and the different animals. I think overall this is a really cool design for a board game, and it could transfer, adolescents all the way up to adults. I don't really see the kids playing this because, again, it's got 52 numbers on here. But for kids, I think this is a good one because of the shapes. You don't have to deal with numbers. This is more likely to be for kids, I'd say. Colors and shapes board game. Again, really simple. Kids could play, 5-year-olds, 7-year-olds. You don't see a lot of characters on here, but based on the shapes, I think this design works really well. The colors are clean. The switching spots, again, not a lot of text on here. Again, because kids, who are 5 can't really read, right? This picture is a little bit blurry, but again, 20 numbers. Since we're talking about the complexity of each square, you have this unicorn, very fantastical, as well as the rainbow over the castle and the clouds. Cool theme, right? And the audience, I think, again, is going to be kids. And finally, again, another blurry one. Still very simple. Since we're just going with the kids theme, you got the numbers, you have all these cute little animals, the big head for the monkey in terms of the design, and the cute rabbit in the right-hand corner, the nice colors, very saturated colors, and again, something that, kids would play with rather than adults. So again, that's all I wanted to show with you. It's really important that you have a very, very clear theme. You follow that theme, whatever it is. If it's a medical game, you have the theme of doctors, hospitals, organs, whatever. If you have to have a very clear target audience. If I can't tell what the target audience is, man, the design should be very, very clear, because this is really important when we talk about games and how we want to make people play these games and create the appeal of playing a game that's unique and different. Again, Professor Pete, that's all I got to say. Keep learning.